I'm conquering the spirit, I'm busting through the ceiling. I'm following your lead, I'm following the spirit.
Hey guys, welcome back. I know I said the next video that I was going to release was going to be regarding Crete. However, I've decided I'm going to finish off that chapter by L.A. Waddell. That'll be coming out over the next few days, and then I'm going to do the Crete video. I'd just like to say as well, I've just dropped on the channel the audiobook for the video that I put, the book that I published regarding derives and derives. It's 5.5 hours long, so it's a bit of a lengthy listen. However, I do advise anyone to listen to it, as I said in previous videos, the difference between derives or dares and derives or derives, however way you want to pronounce it, those two give such different accounts to the Homeric poems. There's a lot of stuff in there. Hercules, his journey's different. Paris, his logic's different. Helen, there's a lot of different stuff that goes on in each version, and like I say, those two versions are in there, so I recommend people go and listen to it and check it out. But today in this video, I was going through Iman's book, just putting some stuff together for that Crete video, and I came across the Ogmios alphabet. Apologies, by the way, if you can hear cats and dogs moving around. And what you get in this Iman book is, well, I'll just read it as it is. Several hundred Ogmios inscriptions have been found on stones in England and Ireland. Ogmios writing has also been found on stones in Spain and North America, but it is difficult to date the stones. They could be deciphered thanks to Irish manuscripts of the Middle Ages, such as the Book of Leinster, Leinster, and the Book of Ballymote, Ballmote, which contain the Ogham tract, an inventory of about 70 varieties of the Ogmios alphabet. The name itself is derived, according to some, from the Greek Ogmios, or furrow, while according to others it comes from the Hercules alternative in Celtic, or Hercules Celtic name, Ogmios, which is fascinating, that, Ogmios. Shown here is a complete alphabet, though it should be noted that the vowels do not appear in all the versions. So I'm going to go back real quick and I'll put it on the screen. Obviously, the letter M has one line, the letter G has 2 lines, the letter NG has 3 lines, the letter Z has 4, and the letter R has 5. They're all vertical lines. And now you get horizontal lines at different lengths, but it's the vertical lines I'm interested in, because as we come across in that part 1 of the Waddell video, we've seen that you could use them lines for numbers. It was 1 to 4, and then obviously you'd have a V for 5, and then you'd have 6 to 9, which would be a V and 4 lines afterwards, and then so on and so on up to X and keep going. So I was a bit confused by that, because I was like, well, that's not really the same connection, is it? It doesn't make sense really. So I have got this other book here, which is interesting, and we're going to do some reading out of that one. But just to go back to Waddell and see what he says on this. He claims the language of this Aryan Phoenician inscription is essentially Aryan in its roots, structure and syntax, with the Sumerian and Gothic affinities. The Ogham version, however, is clearly contemporary with and by the same author as the Central Phoenician inscription, as it is now disclosed to be a contracted version of the latter. This discovery thus puts back the date of the Ogham script far beyond the period hitherto supposed by modern writers. So this part here, I'm guessing he refers to the modern writers. Ogham or tree twig is another term he uses. Script, and that's for because you write on the sticks in lines. Write sticks on the lines, like stickmen. Ogham or tree twig script, which is found on ancient monuments throughout the British Isles, though most frequently in Ireland, has hitherto been conjectured by Celto-Irish philologists to date no earlier than about the 4th or 5th century AD, so that's fairly modern, and to have been coined by the Gaelic scribes in Ireland or Britain, and to be non-Aryan. This late date is assumed merely because some of the Ogham inscriptions occur on early Christian tombstones, which sometimes contain bilingual versions in Roman letters, in Latin or Celtic, which presumably date to about that period, but I observed that several of the letter forms of this cumbrous Ogham script are more or less substantially identical with several of the primitive linear Sumerian letter signs, which possesses more or less the same phonetic values in the Ogham. Such Oghamanoid groups of strokes also occur. I observed in ancient Hittite hieroglyph inscriptions devoted to the sun cult and containing sun crosses, as in the group here figured. So I'll put that image on the screen. Now, however, as the Ogham script is here found in the earliest of all its records, recorded occurrences around 400 BC, at Newton and in the adjoining and presumably more or less contemporary pillar at Logie, inscribed upon sun cult votive monuments in association with the sun cross, just as quasi-Ogham letters also are found in Hittite hieroglyph votive monuments of the sun cult, and also accompanied by sun crosses. It seems to me, in view of the fact that the bulky stroke script, which possesses only ordinary secular writing, was sacred script, composed by later Aryan sun priests for solar worship, and coined upon the few old Sumerian signs of the twig patterns. And we shall see later that the Sumerians and Hitto-Phoenicians symbolized their sun cult by the crossed sticks or twigs, by which the friction they produced their sacred fire offerings to the sun, just as the ancient and medieval Britons produced their sacred and need for fire offering. Moreover, this solar cult origin for the Ogham script seems further confirmed by its title of Ogham. It was named, according to the Irish-Scots tradition, after its inventor Ogmios, who is significantly called the sun worshipper, and is identified with Hercules. Of the Phoenicians, such a pre-Christian and solar cult origin for Ogham also now explains its use on the Newton stone, as well as the Irish-Scots tradition that Ogham writing, which was freely current in Ireland in the pre-Christian period, especially for sacred monuments and tombstones, as attested by numerous surviving ancient monuments, was denounced by St. Patrick as pagan and soon became extinct. We are now in a position to examine the rich crop of important historical, personal, ethnical and geographical names and titles preserved in the Brito-Phoenician inscription of about 400 BC. So I'll leave that there. So, like I say there, just going back to Iman's book here, and I'll just reiterate what it says. The name itself, which is Ogham or Ogham, the name itself is derived, according to some, from the Greek Ogmios or furrow, while according to others it comes from Hercules' alternative Celtic name, Ogmios, shown in the complete alphabet, blah blah blah. So you've got two different. Now these two authors have very different ideas. One of them is, as I say, Iman Wilkens. He believes Troy was in East Anglia and was a Celtic conflict. As I say, I'm going to do the Homer video pretty soon as well, and we're going to see that Homer could have potentially been Celtic. When we look into Crete, we're going to see Crete potentially could be in Scandinavia. So we're seeing all this context around the Brythonic element in Western Europe, Northwestern Europe, also Spain, and down into Northwest Africa and things like that. And then we've got Waddell, who believes the total opposite and thinks all this information was over on the Eastern Mediterranean and transferred westward. Excuse me. So to find both of them having differences of opinion and yet coming up with the same narrative that Ogham was named after Hercules. So perhaps in the future this is something we're going to have to look into a little bit more. I actually did start putting some information together in my notes on my phone regarding Hercules. So I might end up sitting down and doing an actual Hercules video, go into the origins, who he was, what it was he did, the 12 labours, because the number 12 is quite significant there again. And I seen somewhere that it was like a God thing, that the reason why he did the 12 labours. But from my understanding is it was a king who he was left in. One of the goddesses, could have been Hera, I think it might have been. She had a disdain for Hercules since he was born, and she actually sent 2 serpents to kill him. And while he was still an infant, Hercules grabbed the 2 snakes and apparently strangled the 2 snakes. And yeah, went on. He grew older, and the king who he was in custody of, he gave him 12 labours, and at the end of the 12 labours, like, Hercules had kind of won around the gods, and the gods kind of accepted him as a god himself, almost, in essence, which is interesting. Like I say, there's a lot of correlations and interconnecting stuff there with numbers and things like that. And just a final note, what I've just mentioned there, if anyone's a fan of music, I highly recommend you go and check out a song by Bob Dylan. And if you watch the song, it's called Joker Man. Right at the start of the music video, there's a verse in the song, and it's and the idol in that video is holding 2 snakes. So it's fascinating stuff. Like I say, it's all kind of, there's a lot of esoteric knowledge that kind of ties into like real world culture and history. Like, there's a lot of people who would say these 2 authors are absolutely crazy, and there's other people who I've seen, like, who would argue to the last breath for either one of them, whose opinions they think are gospel in essence. But yeah, I'm going to leave it there. It was a bit of a mad one, this. I didn't really plan on doing it. It's just as I was reading, I started checking some stuff, and it correlated pretty quick, so I was like, whoa, I'll share that one. But yeah, the next video coming down the line is going to be, I'll do the part 2 of this LA Waddell chapter, where it was that connection between the Hitto-Phoenician and the Britons, or the Barats as he calls it, and the language and how it all connects, in his opinion, from Sumerian, Egyptian, Akkadian, all these different histories on that side of the world, right across to this side of the world. I don't have it here right now, but I've also got another book from Waddell. So thanks to Marshall, who recommended the, I forgot what the name of the book was now. I think it was something like the Babylonian origins of language or something like that. Basically a more in-depth book on that chapter in essence. But the book I've just ordered from Waddell, it should come tomorrow, is how Egypt had its roots in Sumeria with I'm guessing, I didn't bother reading up the description. I seen it, I like the look of it, and I thought I'll just order it. And I think it ties in with like the gods of Sumer and how they became the gods of Egypt, and also how that's the pantheon of gods, that is, and then how language and mythology transferred from Sumer into places like Egypt. But again, if you're to read Iman Wilkens' book, he has a totally different location for Egypt that he believes was a precursor to the Egypt in Africa that we know today. And there's another author called Comians Beaumont, who I did purchase one of his books, paid like £70 for it, and I was reading through it, and to be honest, it was just, I thought to myself, I haven't even got the time to assimilate all this information at the minute, so I actually sent it back. But he believes that Egypt was in a different location to where some of these other people believe. So there's so many contriving theories out there, and yeah, I guess we just got to try and find our way through it. And at the end of the day, you're just gonna have to kind of take your pick, what you believe and what you don't. And there's no right or wrong answers, by the way, because we're all just out here trying to figure it out, do the best we can. However, I've been waffling on too long there, so like I say, I'm going to leave it there. I'll do this Waddle video for the next one, do the Crete video after that, and then we might break some more of this like language structure down, look at Hercules and a few other bits and bobs. But as I leave, don't forget to check out the Derives and Dicketies audiobook. It's lengthy, but trust me, you'll enjoy it. So on that note, catch you next video. Peace.